Students, so today we will be talking about the topic of lipids. So first, the basics of lipids. So what are the basics of lipids? What are the lipids? They are the what you say energy reserves of the body. If I want to complete this topic, I can use hardly 5 minutes or 10 minutes. This is the easiest topic, but I want to go in detail and clear out your concepts. So don't worry if I give any extra information, that is just to clear out your concepts. Many teachers just use hardly 10 minutes and just complete the topic of lipids. It doesn't make any sense. So the second point is, what is high lipids made of? Lipids are consisting of hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, but there is one more. Sometimes it is present in less quantity, which is phosphorus. It has, comparative to carbohydrates, it has higher ratio of hydrogen and oxygen. If you haven't watched my video about carbohydrates, so you should go and watch it before I explain this topic. What I mean by more ratio of hydrogen and oxygen. If we write the formula of carbohydrate, it is C6H12O6. If we cut out the values, hydrogen makes 2, oxygen makes 1. So 2 to the ratio 1. Alright. What is the ratio? 2 to the ratio 1. But here the hydrogen ratio, here it is 2. But the ratio of hydrogen here in lipids is much higher than what you say in carbohydrates. I will be explaining how much hydrogens are there. Here are 12. There are multiple more, hundreds or like many hydrogen atoms comparing to carbohydrates. So this is all the definition stuff. Now let's move on the theoretical stuff. If we move on to the theoretical stuff, I told you there are two types of molecules: polymers and monomers. Polymers are simply those molecules which are made of monomers. So what are polymers in really? Just think, a house is made of 100 of bricks. That brick, 100 of bricks. So the house is a polymer, the bricks is a monomer. The monomer is what? The brick. The polymer is what? The house. Why the polymer is the house? It is made of millions and billions or hundreds or thousands of bricks. That's why it is known as monomers. So what is the example? Lipids itself is a polymer. Lipids is made of 100 or millions of molecules of glycerol. When one single glycerol molecule attaches to another glycerol, another, then it makes lipids. So monomers is the building blocks of the polymers. Glycerol and another fatty acids. There are different properties for each other. Many people make it together, but there are separate characteristics and definitions for each of them. Many textbooks don't provide this information. Then you go in your CIs and you get stuck in the MCQs, because the MCQs or the ATP session or the theory paper just based on most of the ATP paper based on those glycerol and fatty acids. So I hope you all understand what is the polymer. Polymer is the final structure that is made out of the monomers. Monomers are the building blocks that make polymers. So what? Glycerol, a lot of glycerols made the polymer, which is lipid. A lot of fatty acids made up polymers, which is lipid. So I hope you all understand this. Now let's move on the topic of glycerol. So what really is glycerol? Glycerol. So what is glycerol? First, we understand many people say glycerol is another word of alcohol. That's a totally wrong statement they pass. It is known as alcohol, but it is not totally alcohol. For example, any group that has hydroxyl group in it is known as alcohol. If, for example, ethane has hydroxyl group which is OH, if any molecule has this OH word in it, it is considered a alcohol. Ethane has OH, it is considered as a alcohol. Methane has OH, it will be considered as a alcohol. Any molecule, any compound which has OH in it is considered alcohol. So why I am calling glycerol alcohol? Because it has this hydroxyl group in it, which is OH, oxygen and hydrogen. In the previous, like 2 minutes ago, I told you there is high ratio of hydrogens. Glycerol has different building blocks. Like, for example, I told you the monomers is the glycerol and the fatty acid. I give you the example of a house. Like a house is made of bricks, then brick is also made somewhere. Same as with glycerol. Glycerol is a brick that makes lipids. So glycerol is also made somewhere. So glycerol is made of C3, H8 and O3. I will explain, no need to memorize this. I am just clearing it out your concept. Why is it called alcohol? If you don't want to know, just skip this part. Alright. For example, carbon. I said it is made of 3 carbon atoms. What I mean by carbon, if I am stating carbon before, carbon has the characteristics to at least have 4 bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4. At least have 4 bonds in it. So hydrocarbon makes, for example, I am carbon, I have 4 hands. And I have to fill all those 4 hands with something. I have to hold something. First thing will be, this is carbon. Carbon with one hand is holding hydrogen. With one hand it is holding OH. How many hands are filled? It is holding itself one hand, second hand and the third hand. Now it has one hand left. It is holding itself, carbon. It is holding one bond, carbon, other bond, hydrogen, another bond, OH. Now it has one hand empty. One hand is empty. I have 4 hands. One hand carbon, one hand hydrogen, one hand OH. So to fill out this bond gap, it has CH2 and hydroxyl. What I say, it has 4 hands. Carbon, one bond, hydrogen, one bond, OH, one bond. This space is empty. To fill this space, it has 2 hydrogens. One more hydrogen attaches to it. Now this forms another bond. This is not glycerol. This is any other substance found in your blood. But this is not glycerol. This carbon holds this bond. This bond is held by this carbon. It has 4 hands. One hand is filled while holding this bond. I have 4 hands. I am holding another hand, or like this. I am holding a group. Alright. Then I am holding hydrogen. Then I am holding hydroxyl group. I have one more hand left. And that hand don't attaches to any hydrogen. It attaches to another carbon. Just understand, this carbon is holding a group. One hand got busy while holding any other, whatever heck it is. It is just holding a group already formed part of glycerol. Another hand holding hydrogen. Another hand holding hydroxyl group. Your brain must be thinking, why isn't it holding nitrogen? Why isn't it holding any other molecule? For everything there is a recipe. For making a brick, there is a recipe. In your geography industries topic, you must have studied how brick is made. It has what example? It has what you say. I also remember it has coal, it has gypsum, it has limestone. I also water or many other substances. So everything has a recipe, same as with glycerol. Glycerol also has a recipe. So alright, returning to the topic, from one hand it is holding another group, from one hand it is holding hydrogen, from one hand it is holding hydroxyl group, one hand is left. So what it will hold? Another group that will be formed. Like cement, brick is made of 4 things. It also has 4 things. It also has 4 hands. It has to fill those 4 hands. So what will be the answer? CH with OH. Now, this has 4 hands now. This carbon has now 4 hands. Here, 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 here. All are free. Hydroxyl group attaches. Hydrogen attaches. One more free hand. Hydrogen attaches. Now what about the another free hand? What do you say about it? Now this free hand attaches to this CHOH. You all understand? Anything that I said, I will repeat. Now this also forms CH2 with OH. I told you this is the formula. Count the number of carbons. 3 carbons. 3 carbons. Hydrogens 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 hydrogens. 1, 2, 3 oxygens. Is this the same formula? Yes, this is the same formula. What I told you earlier is the same thing that I am now. This has 3 carbons, the formula also has 3 carbons. It has 8 hydrogens, the formula also says 8 hydrogens. This has 3 oxygens, it also says oxygen. I hope you all understand. This is the most easiest explanation I could do. Just forget whatever this is. Just remember why it is called what you say alcohol. It is not called as alcohol because it has hydroxyl group in it. Why it is I explain you why it has hydroxyl group, because it is made of carbon. Carbon has a property to form 4 bonds, 1 bond with hydrogen, 1 bond with OH, and 1 bond and extra bond with what you say hydrogen. So 1 bond with this carbon attaches to it, 1 hydrogen and 1 hydroxyl group, 1 attaches to this. Why it doesn't have 2 hydrogens in it? Why it does not have? Because it don't have any other free hand. It has 4 and 4 are distributed. 1 attaches to this, 1 attaches to this, 1 attaches to this, and 1 attaches to OH bond. I hope you all understand this. It has 4 hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 bonds complete. This has 4 bonds. 1, 2. Why 2? Because it has 2 hydrogen atoms, 2 separate bonds. 1 with oxyl group, 3 covered, and 1 to attach this carbon. I hope you all understand this glycerol topic. Let's now just complete about the fatty acids. There will be no other information required for glycerol except for their formula or any basic. If the examiner asks you in any of the why glycerol is called as an alcohol, you should simply write it as hydroxyl group, which is OH. When someone asks you what is the formula of glycerol, you say C3H8 and O3. Now let's move on to some another topic, which is lipids. So while moving on the fatty acids, I will explain what is fatty acids. Fatty acids, why it is said fatty and why it is said acids. Anything to know as an acid should has what you say this carboxylic acid. To say any acid, when I say something like glycerol acid, like I say carbohydrate acid, When I will say acid, when it has carboxylic acid. It is called acid because it has carboxylic acid. It is known as fatty because it has carbon atoms. Anything that has a long chain of carbon atoms is known as fats. Why fats is called fats? Because it has long chain of carbons. Why fatty acid is called fatty acids? Because it has a long chain of carbons. Why glycerol is not called fats? Because it has only 3 carbons. Fatty acids, whereas has a long chain of what you say carbons. It has a chain of 14 carbons to 24 carbons, whereas glycerol only has 3 carbons. So now you can say it has 14 carbons with 24 carbons, 24 to 14 carbons. For example, this is carbon bonds forming carbon 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15. Now this is another fatty acid. It has COOH, carbohydraulic acid, and it's, and that's why it is called as acid. If it doesn't have this, it is only known as fatty. If it doesn't have COOH, I will call it as fatty only. Why? Because it doesn't have the acidic property, which is COOH. When it does have this property, then I will call it as fatty acids. Why I am not calling this fatty acids? It doesn't have COOH. When it has COOH, I will call it as fatty acids. A fatty acid that has 14 carbons or 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, it will be considered as a fatty acid. That's all. I further clear it out. Wait, I will clear it out. Now, I will use an example. I said fatty acids are known as fatty because it has long carbon chains. How much long carbon chains? 14 carbons to 24 carbons. Why it is called acids? Because it has COOH, that's it. Nothing else. Now there are two further types of fatty acids. If you have butter in your home, just pick it up. If it says saturated fats or unsaturated fats, I will tell you the difference. What are saturated fats? Saturated fats and unsaturated fats. There are two types of fats, one that is saturated and one that is unsaturated fats. So what's the difference and which one is healthy? So what is saturated fat first? Any fat that stays solid at a room temperature. You understand what is room temperature? 28 Celsius, 32 Celsius. If a fat, any fat substance that contains fat stays solid at room temperature, which is 28 Celsius, 32 Celsius, 29 Celsius, 30 Celsius, 31 Celsius, it remains solid. It is known as saturated fats. Now, take your butter, a small chunk of butter, place it on the kitchen shelf, leave it there. If it does melts, it is unsaturated fats. If it doesn't melt, it is saturated fats. What are the examples? Our syllabus requires us to know this. Important for ATP. Make a star on it and say it is important for ATP. What is it? Solid butter, also known as margarine, same meaning. And also soap. Now you already saying in your minds that why fatty acids are involved in soap. That's none of our business. It is involved in the soap. It is known as saturated fats because soap stays solid at a room temperature. For in your restrooms, it is stays solid. If you in the supermarket or superstore, it has a solid soap, not a liquid. So it means it has saturated fats. If a butter in your home stays solid, if any fats like what you say, any oily chips stays solid at what you say room temperature, will be considered as saturated. Now, a liquid that stays liquid when the temperature is at room temperature, like oil. Oil is oil, kaluna oil or sunflower oil or cooking oil or coconut oil. All oils that stay solid, coconut oil that stays solid is known as unsaturated fats. Any oil that is you use to cook your meal stays liquid at room temperature, it is known as unsaturated fats. Why it is called unsaturated, saturated, saturated, unsaturated? Because it stays solid at room temperature. Unsaturated fats stays liquid at room temperature. Why it stays liquid? It has double bond in it. It stays carbon because it has strong bonds. When there are two ropes, such as there are one car and the second car, they are pulling at their full speed, one rope there is. If I put two ropes, it becomes stronger. It makes more strength to break the ropes. So it has two bonds. That's why it is known as unsaturated fats. Whereas saturated, it only has one bond. I hope you all understand this topic. I tried to explain it in the most easiest way I could. I thank you guys for watching my video. Bye.